This is a video review of the Dino Charge Megazord from Power Rangers Dino Charge. Now, in Japan, this character was called Kyoryujin from Zyuden Sentai Kyoryger. This is the American version, though, so it is quite a bit different. It's actually an entirely different mold, because that's what Bandai of America does now. In the past, Bandai of America has made some so-so attempts, some really bad attempts, and some even attempts. This is the first one where I think is definitely better than the original. And, I'll get into that in a little bit, but for now, I'm going to talk about the Dino Chargers. Now, these things are the American versions of the Zyuden, which are the Dino batteries. And what these things are is they're just little batteries that you put in the figure to activate little gimmicks. I'll show off the gimmicks when I go over the individual Zords here. But just by themselves, they have this thing where you press a button up here, and they flip to a different side. So we have fossilized, transition, active, transition, fossilized. The Japanese ones only had two sides, so these are actually somewhat different, also a little bit smaller. I'm not sure which ones I like better. One thing to note is that they do have a QR code here. I actually don't like this, though, because it screws with how they mess with the Morpher over here, because they, let me get the, an opaque one. They have these little nubs right here that tell the Morpher which one is actually inside of it, but you only get the nubs on one side. On the Japanese version, there were nubs on both sides, so that's a little bit weird. The other weird thing is you only get one with this set. You don't get Stegosaurs or Triceratops, Zyuden either. I'm going to level with you right now. I'm going to be saying Zyuden a lot because that's how I know these things. The official name in America is Dino Charger. If I mess up, just wave it by. Now, anyway, one thing that sucks is I also don't know where to get the Stegosaurs or the Triceratops Dino Charger. Certainly not with the Morpher, because with the Morpher you get another T-Rex one and a Parasaurolophus. I think that's how you pronounce that. Parasaurolophus, yeah, that's right. So basically red and the Black Ranger one. So I don't know where to get these. I may be missing something from the toy catalogs that have been released for these guys already, but I don't know where to get these. And it's not that it matters to me either way. I don't really care about these little collectible things, but for some people, you might. Although, heads up, you do get a green one with the Raptor and a black one with the Parasaurolophus. Anyway, on to the figures themselves. Let's start off with the Triceratops. This thing is actually very close to the original. The major differences are this thing actually pops off, and it doesn't have a little black thing running across its back attached to the horns, because on the original you could point the horns down. They would be an extra weapon for Kyoryujin. That being said, it is basically a very competent replication, although smaller. There is one problem I have with it, and it's actually a problem I have with all of the smaller Zords too. So these two Stegosaurs and this guy. It's not a problem with T-Rex or Gavatira. But anyway, what the problem is, you open it up, and then you put the Zyuden in like normal, and then this pops out. That's fine. But the problem is you then can't close the mouth. So if you want to just store these batteries just in the toys like you would on the Japanese versions, oh, no, you can't do that unless you want to have them look like they're screaming. So I think that's a little bit odd, and it does actually drag this figure down significantly. I still think overall it is better than the Japanese version. I'll get into that. Anyway, if you want to remove the Zyuden, you have this little pink button right here. You slide it forward, you pull it out. Then you can just push this back. Now, one thing to note is if you don't have one of these, or it's in somewhere else, or you lose them, or whatever, you can just activate it by pushing the button down like this. So these things really aren't necessary, which does also impact the transformation. I'll talk about that later. So anyway, this has been the Triceratops. To transform it into the arm, you just fold these up like that and leave the mouth open. I'm going to go ahead and put one of these in just because I like the Zyuden in it when I combine it. So anyway, I'll put it off to the side. And here is the Stegosaurus, and I really like the blue and yellow combination on this. It doesn't have quite as much paint as the original, but it is quite competent. And like with the Triceratops, since it's basically the same kind of figure, basically everything that was good about the Triceratops applies here as well, and everything that's bad applies as well. So you have the same problem here where you put this in, you get this flinging forward, which works really well, and then it doesn't close. I won't go over that again, but that's how it works. So I'll just put this in here, and then to turn into the arm, you want to fold these up like this, so that they form a line. Then you take this off, and this will be the sword. Put them off to the side. Now, last one to look at is, I'm going to say Gabutira a lot, but he's a Tyrannosaurus Rex. And the way that his little gimmick here works is you open his mouth, you put this in, and then you close it, and then he has little feathers that pop up. It is very silly. Anyway, I really like this thing. It is a very competent replication of Gabutira. It's not huge, but like the original was, but it's big, it's bulky, it's very sturdy. See? Sturdy. Not a scratch on them from that. Anyway, for posability in this mode, the legs go forward and back. Also, you saw the posability when I transformed these guys. The legs move forward and back. It's not really that interesting. But anyway, legs move forward and back, and these things move, and you can tilt the head, and that's about it. Anything that you can see on him is all that you get after that. Anyway, to transform him is pretty interesting. Well, it's more interesting in how it's different from the original Gabutira. First of all, this yellow bit here on the tail is significantly smaller. And I actually like this for several reasons. Basically, because it's smaller, it's not as big on his back either when you attach it to the back. Because one on Kyoryujin is just huge and sticks back really far. When we get to the point where we can stick this onto his back, it's very tastefully sized. Anyway, then you will take his legs here, you'll pull them back, and there are these little nubs right here that will go into this little socket right here. And it's not an easy thing to do. Like, I feel like I'm going to break it sometimes when I do it. It's gotten easier over time, but I don't know if that's because it's actually started to break. I don't think it actually will break because, again, sturdy plastic, but it is something that at least feels weird. Anyway, so fold these down, turn it around, split the legs, and this is the other big difference, because on Gabutira, the tail section was huge, and the helmet actually stored in it. Now that it's small, it can't, so it stores in the legs. What's interesting, though, is it's still storing in the same place, just more of the mass has been allocated to the legs than the tail. And that's because the legs don't telescope on this version. Anyway, continuing on, we'll rotate up his head, put on his helmet like this, and then we'll put this onto his back here. And like I said, very tastefully sized. Not too big, not too small, works quite well. Next thing you'll do is you'll take the arms here, and this is where I actually do take a little bit of umbrage with the transformation. With Kyoryujin, what you would do is you would press a button right here, and that would cause the Zyuden to just pop out real fast. And that was what made the combination sequence really work for me, rather than just being a boring thing where you transform this guy, then stick on two arms, which it's not the most engaging transformation ever for a Megazord. On these guys, you have to push it forward, and it's just not quite as kinetic, especially considering that these don't close all the way. So, just the way that the Zyuden are handled by this, Dino Charger, sorry, is a little bit irksome. They could have handled it a lot better. It's not terrible, it still does everything it needs to do, but it's annoying at the same time. So anyway, pop that forward, pop the arm in, same thing over here, and then you will put the sword in his hand like this. And this is the Dino Charge Megazord, and this thing looks exactly like Kyoryujin. The only big differences are some paint and color differences, and I don't care about those at all. This thing, from a distance, just looks like Kyoryujin. There is no appreciable differences between the two figures. Now, the reasons why I think this figure is superior to the original are as follows. First of all, because he's not so freaking massive, he can actually hold his arms out. The original, if you did this and then you tapped his arm at all, the arms just go thump, and that was awful. Now, I'm not saying that these are super tight. They are the Zord Builder peg system, but they're better than the original by far. And another reason why I like this guy better is you can actually pull this off. And what I like to do with this is put it onto this side, and then put the sword into this hand. The reason why I like this is because it changes up his color scheme a little bit, makes it look a little bit more interesting, and it just adds another step to the transformation to make it more satisfying to do. Let's see, next thing that I really like about him is that the arms actually clip on pretty well. On Kyoryujin, in fact, all of Kyoryger had this problem where just the clips were just so weak. And part of that was just because the figures were just so giant and they were being held by clips this size. But I also... Now, this is just a guess by me, but I also think that the plastic in here, in these clips, is probably better suited for being a clip anyway. I'm no materials expert, no plastics engineer or anything like that, but in my experience, plastic that looks and feels like this, that has a little bit of, it's a little bit porous, you're not going to be able to see it very close on the camera. Basically, in my experience, plastic that looks and feels like this tends to never break. The worst it will ever do is bend. And so that means that this guy, his clips are not going to ever just break. Whereas on Kyoryuger, in Kyoryuger, there were just clips breaking left and right and left and right. And actually, that's the reason why my Kyoryujin isn't out here for comparison right now, because he doesn't really work anymore because the clips all broke because everything is too big and heavy in Kyoryuger, in the Kyoryuger toy line. Some of my Kyoryuger toys are fine, but my Kyoryujin is not. So just that this guy is more sturdy overall really works well for him, for me, and makes it the preferable choice. Especially considering that Bandai of America has been doing a lot better job with these, that I do expect that the later figures like the Plezuo, the what is he, the pterodactyl guy, Turaidino, and Brachio, I expect them all to be decent, at least this good. So I don't think that the future figures are going to suffer enough from the conversion from Bandai of Japan to Bandai of America to make this guy, from a combiner of combiners' point of view, worse. I think that makes sense, although it was very long-winded. Anyway, now this guy does have a couple of problems. First of all, if you put his arms forward like this, he will tip forward. The original Kyoryujin did this. I don't get why. It wouldn't have been any problem at all to put some kind, like they put one right here. If they put this on the other side, you wouldn't have that problem. It's weird. I think the reason why it happens is because the ratchets in his legs aren't quite strong enough to just keep the legs in position, so they end up spreading just a little bit. And I really wish Bandai of America had anticipated this, because it does kind of suck for him to wobble like this, but at least it's not worse than what Kyoryujin did. So anyway, this has been a video review of the Dino Charge Megazord. I do quite like it, at least as much as Kyoryujin, and it doesn't have any of the really bad problems that Kyoryujin had either. So this is definitely the way to go if you want a representation of Kyoryujin, especially because it's cheaper too. So anyway, I review Power Rangers, Digimon, Tobots, Biclons, lots of stuff like that. I mean, if any of that sounds interesting, please subscribe, and thank you for watching. Have a nice day.